Joe Biden has won the US election. Now, much to Trump supporters' despair, Biden has come out and said he'll be a president for all Americans. Biden's won the 2020 election. I think that's pretty much over, and I had a few important points to touch on. It's important for Republicans to accept the result and move on. Now, I say this because democracy is one of the most successful systems of governance the Western world has ever seen, and indeed the world has ever seen. It's important to accept this result, otherwise it undermines democracy in the US, and we'll see that flood over to the UK as well. We'll see an increase of distrust, and I'm worried for what it would mean if Trump wasn't to leave. If Trump refuses to leave, I don't know what would happen, but it worries me. There's just something about accepting the result and moving on, being the bigger man, as it were. And let's not forget, Republicans can have their moment of sorrow, because the Democrats went on for the whole of Trump's presidency. For 4 years, they claimed Russia interfered in the election. It was all a hoax. They even tried to get him impeached and removed from office. Now, another point I wanted to touch on was it's important to ensure transparency for future elections. No doubt there was voter fraud in this election. No doubt about it. I don't think it was on a large scale. I think it was on a much more smaller scale. I don't think it'd be large enough to swing the vote. Maybe it'd be large enough to swing a state, but I don't think Trump will get those 270 electoral votes. Ensuring transparency for future elections will further consolidate democracy. We want the most fairest system we have. And if we don't have it, people without trust in the system really undermine society's view on democracy. So I wanted to take a look at this article. Millions of Americans have risen up and said democracy won't die on our watch, by Carol Anderson. She says every maneuver by Trump and his enablers to block voting was met with a more powerful and effective counter-maneuver by citizens. It had to be. Now, Trump didn't want to block voting. What Trump wanted to do was to ensure that every illegal vote was disregarded and every legal vote was counted. The question Americans faced in this election was clear. What were they prepared to do to protect their democracy? So, Carol Anderson is pushing the narrative that Trump is anti-democracy. I don't get how you can get that narrative through to people, because Donald Trump accepted the 2016 result and proved to the world that Russia did not interfere with the US election. He proved that he kept democracy intact. But Americans had to fight more than just Trump. The Republican National Committee recruited 50,000 members of poll watchers who are little more than a goon squad used to intimidate voters in 15 states. They are not to intimidate voters, they are to ensure that voting is going ahead as democratically as possible. She then goes on to say, then there are Republican governors and secretaries of state who try to weaponize a global pandemic, make it another barrier to the ballot box. By election day, COVID-19 has killed more than 230,000 and infected at least 9 million Americans. Like the Jim Crow politicians of days of yore, they were determined to make people choose between casting their ballot or avoiding death. Now, what Carol Anderson says here is just, quite frankly, ridiculous. Republicans encouraged people to go out and vote, and they also encourage you to be careful. May I remind you that Trump is the candidate that didn't want to lock down the country. Biden wants to lock down the country and prevent you from going outside. Now, looking at the result here, the Associated Press said that, or is saying, Biden is projected to win 290 electoral college votes versus Trump's 214. Now, it's important for Republicans to build on what they have made so far. They are stronger than before. Trump has got I think it's 4 million more votes than he did in 2016 when you voted for Hillary. There are more Trump supporters now than there were in 2016. And more Latino voters, more black voters, more gay voters for Donald Trump. He's actually improved in the minority category rather significantly. He's taken away the minority vote from Biden, and it's mainly white males that are voting for Biden. So the Republicans are in a good place. Now, I think the Republicans will be better off without Donald Trump, to be honest. Donald Trump, yes, he has opened a new generation of republicanism. He's opened a new path for the Republican Party. But I think what the Republican needs now is a measured, calm, and calculated candidate that can take on Biden in 4 years' time. Another point I wanted to touch on was Trumpism lives on. Now, there's this new ideology that's kind of been thrown around in this election cycle, and it's Trumpism. Now, I would say Trump governed conservatively, but he also attacked the institutions of media and other institutions, and that's called Trumpism. Trumpism lives on, and it's very strong because 4 million more votes than in 2016. Record turnouts in this election. And I wanted to touch on what Joe Biden means for the UK and Brexit. This article by ITV says that Biden said he would prefer a different outcome. He said he would actually vote Remain in a European referendum. Had I been a member of Parliament, had I been a British citizen, I would have voted against leaving. So he's not a Brexiteer. He referenced the UK's and US's special relationship, but hinted it could decline after Brexit. There's a special relationship. We've been locked cheek to jowl on almost every important issue, without England being totally integrated, to the extent that its distance diminishes our ability to have influence on events on the continents. So he's not a Brexiteer. He doesn't have the UK's interests at heart. He could be described as Beijing Biden. Maybe he's a globalist. Biden is a globalist. And he will, as Obama said, the UK will be at the back of the queue. And Biden was the vice president when Obama said that. So we know where Biden stands on this. He said, we cannot allow the Good Friday Agreement that brought peace to Northern Ireland to become a casualty of Brexit. Any trade deal between the US and UK must be contingent upon respect for the agreement and preventing the return of a hard border, period. So he's against the hard border for Brexit. Now, this is slightly worrying because I don't believe Boris Johnson will be able to resist Biden. I think Johnson's weak. I think he might even be gone by the time a trade deal comes between the US and the UK. Mr. Johnson has said, I think when they understand what we are trying to do, they will share our ambition and concern, which is to protect the peace process. So, what we've seen from Johnson in the Brexit negotiations so far is a strong, tough stance. But I think Johnson will be quick to submit to Biden. That's all I'm going to touch on today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm touching quite a bit of topic area here. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Subscribe and like and comment.